Among those who turned their inquisitive gaze toward the Giza pyramids was Sir Isaac Newton, often considered one of the greatest scientific minds in European history. Newton is celebrated for his laws of motion and the universal law of gravitation, discoveries that reshaped the Western world's understanding of physics. Yet there was another side to Newton that often remains hidden in mainstream narratives: a secret devotion to alchemy, biblical prophecy, Kemetic science, and ancient mysticism. Central to these hidden pursuits was his fascination with the architectural wonders of ancient Egypt. Newton's journey into the hidden Kemetic mysteries is a reminder that the African continent's intellectual and cultural heritage has influenced even the brightest Western thinkers. We will delve into Newton's private studies of Egypt's Great Pyramid, the rediscovery of Newton's hidden manuscripts, and how these new findings shed fresh light on the deep connection between Africa's ancient wisdom and Newton's lifelong quest for universal truth. Before diving into Newton's story, it is essential to recognize the magnitude of ancient Egyptian innovation. The Egyptians used advanced geometry to survey lands and design colossal stone structures. Their ability to accurately measure angles and create near-perfect alignments is still studied in schools today. Ancient Egyptian priests observed the motion of stars and planets, developing a calendar system that allowed them to predict seasonal changes. This calendar influenced later Middle Eastern and European civilizations. The stones used in pyramid building could weigh multiple tons. Transporting and placing them so precisely required a combination of organized labor, logistical planning, and advanced engineering know-how. Indeed, some of the so-called laws of motion we know now may have been known by these ancient builders. More on this later. It was these achievements that caught the attention of Sir Isaac Newton, a man seeking hidden keys to unlock the deepest secrets of the universe. In his 17th century world, it was commonly believed that older cultures, especially in Africa, might have discovered knowledge that was later lost. Newton was convinced that if he could unearth these ancient secrets, he could refine his own theories and perhaps even predict the future. Most people know about his foundational work: laws of motion, the three laws explaining how objects move and interact under various forces. Universal gravitation, the concept that every object in the universe attracts every other object with a force proportional to their masses and inversely proportional to the square of their distance. Calculus. Alongside Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, Newton developed the mathematical tools needed to handle rates of change, which have become essential in physics, engineering, and economics. Yet behind this prestigious public image lay a more mysterious figure. Newton the alchemist was someone who pored over older hidden texts about ancient Egypt, believing in the possibility of transmuting metals into gold and discovering an elixir of life. Alchemy in Newton's time was more than the simple pseudoscience it is often labeled as today. The word alchemy is derived from the Arabic term alchimia. The prefix al is the Arabic definite article, meaning the. The root chimia is believed to have been borrowed from the late Greek word chimeia, which refers to the art of alloying metals, or alchemy. This Greek term is thought to have its origins in the ancient Egyptian name for Egypt, Kemet, meaning black earth. Thus, alchemy can be interpreted as the Egyptian art, or the black art. Highlighting its roots in the practices and traditions of ancient Egypt, alchemists used methodical experimentation and kept detailed laboratory notes, laying early foundations for modern chemistry. But alchemy also carried the belief that hidden or divine forces acted upon nature. This mystical side appealed to Newton, leading him to explore the possibility that the Great Pyramid was an alchemical diagram, holding the secrets of creation and transformation. Newton was fascinated by biblical prophecy, especially the books of Daniel and Revelation. He believed that the coded numbers and measurements in these texts could predict the timeline for Armageddon or the end of days. To confirm his ideas, Newton sought parallels in other ancient structures mentioned in biblical and historical sources, notably the Temple of Solomon and the Great Pyramid of Giza. While some aspects of Newton's secret life were suspected by historians, the full extent of his alchemical pursuits only began to emerge in the 20th century. In July 1936, a metal chest appeared at Sotheby's auction house in London. Inside were unpublished handwritten papers, diaries, and lab notes penned by Newton. Economist John Maynard Keynes bought the chest and was astonished at what he found. Newton was, in Keynes's words, not the first of the age of reason. He was the last of the magicians. These newly discovered manuscripts revealed that Newton was Europe's leading alchemist in secret. He described communications with ancient spirits and believed he gleaned universal insights from them. This window into Newton's mystical world sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Here was solid proof that the father of modern physics also believed in supernatural forces, coded messages, and hidden wisdom from ancient African civilizations. Author Sam Keane, in his work, Newton the Last Magician, further explored these revelations. Keane described how Newton, behind the public persona of a genius mathematician, was quietly consumed by alchemical experiments. One of the more striking aspects of Newton's hidden manuscripts is how they focused on the measurements of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Newton hypothesized that the pyramid's dimensions could contain a special numeric code used by the ancient Egyptians to measure the Earth itself. From this vantage, he believed he could refine his calculations of Earth's circumference and thus better confirm his theories of gravity. Another structure that loomed large in Newton's imagination was the Temple of Solomon, described in biblical texts. Newton suspected that the architects of this temple had encoded a prophecy, potentially a timeline to the world's end, within its measurements. If the builders of both the Temple of Solomon and the Great Pyramid tapped into an advanced ancient science, then unlocking the code in these structures might give Newton the date of Armageddon. Over time, Newton merged his studies of the pyramid's geometry with clues from the Bible, searching for that ultimate formula that would reveal the fate of humankind. He wrote in a letter dated 1704, now on display at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, that he expected the world to end in 2060 AD, based on his interpretation of biblical texts and the building dimensions he analyzed. In recent years, further unpublished papers have appeared at Sotheby's, some partially burned or damaged, which detail Newton's calculations around the Great Pyramid. Gabriel Heaton, a Sotheby's manuscript specialist, noted that these papers take you remarkably quickly straight to the heart of a number of the deepest questions Newton was investigating. She also suggested that Newton believed ancient Egyptian alchemy held answers to help prove his theory of gravitation. The Great Pyramid's astonishing accuracy hinted at a system of measurement that might be linked to broader cosmic truths. If Newton could decode that system, he believed he would strengthen his own scientific theories. Newton's relentless pursuit of Egyptian measurement systems is a powerful testament to Africa's intellectual legacy. Too often, Western histories have overshadowed Africa's contributions to world knowledge, focusing instead on Greek and Roman achievements. Yet Newton himself turned to Africa for potential solutions to the greatest puzzles of his time. Newton expected to find advanced geometry embedded in the pyramid's design, reflecting the possibility that ancient Egyptians might have charted Earth's dimensions. This highlights how African math, in Egyptian culture, was respected even by the era's leading European scientists. Newton believed that the ancient builders were not just engineers but also custodians of sacred wisdom. This challenges stereotypes that portray advanced spiritual or scientific thinking as solely Western developments. In Newton's eyes, the African Egyptians were key keepers of universal secrets. Newton's story reminds us that global science, religion, and magic did not develop in strict isolation. Europe's breakthroughs in the scientific revolution drew heavily on ideas, texts, and revelations that trace back to Africa. A fascinating part of Newton's alchemical studies revolves around the Emerald Tablet, a legendary text supposedly revealing the secrets of the universe. Many alchemists believed it originated in Egypt, possibly from the mythical figure Hermes Trismegistus, often linked with the Egyptian god Thoth. Newton went so far as to translate the Emerald Tablet himself, He found in its lines a cosmic philosophy that he thought might relate to gravity, matter, and cosmic order. A key line states, "Its force is above all force, for it vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing." Some scholars argue that this statement strongly resembles Newton's own description of gravity, the unseen force that holds planets in orbit and makes apples fall to the ground. Newton's quest tells a wider story of cross-cultural influence. In an era when Europe was starting to claim intellectual dominance, one of its brightest minds turned to Africa to seek ultimate truths. This is a powerful lesson in world history, reminding us that knowledge does not originate from any single continent or culture. Newton's secret reliance on Egyptian, African wisdom is a testament to how advanced African civilizations have shaped world history. It challenges the contemporary opinion that suggests scientific progress is mainly a European achievement. Instead, it shows that, even at the pinnacle of the scientific revolution, there was recognition and reverence for Africa's ancient heritage. Newton's unyielding quest underscores how profoundly ancient Egyptian engineering, and, by extension, African wisdom, shaped global conceptions of math, science, and the cosmos.